And so we're gonna put the agenda up on the screen, right?
Yes, we'll share that in just a second.
All right.
Mr. Sharpe, we've got all but one of your committee members, so you should be good to get started.
Okay. First of all, let me say good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. And I don't see the agenda in front of me, and I don't have one in. Can we post that, please? Okay. So there's a couple items that we need to have a review for today. And so I'm going to ask that Ms. Jarrett is out. She's having some issues. She won't be in today. So Dr. Ellis and Sheila Wallace will be covering for her. I think Dr. Ellis is covering the budget calendar and Ms. Wallace will be doing the budget amendment. So that said and done, I'm going to ask that I'd like to call the meeting to order. With that said, I'm going to ask that Dr. Ellis, I'm going to turn it over to you to start presenting the budget calendar, please.
Righty, thank you. So I wanted to share the budget planning calendar. We're going to have two that we're about to show. And the reason we are showing two of them because we're going to have to change something based on a conversation with the Nash County Commissioners. So that's coming up. All right, so the first slide you're going to see is the required dates based on our policy, which means basically the Board of Education approves the budget. That should be by May 6th. May 15th, the Board of Education forwards an approved budget to the Board of Commissioners. Then the July 1st, the Nash County Board of Commissioners and Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners must complete actions on the 2021-22 budget. Based on the Nash County Commissioners wanted to meet in April, which will be the 29th. We normally share the budget on the May board meeting, but we're going to have to do that earlier. So you'll see the changes. What we're going to have is a special call meeting on April 27th to review and approve the 2021-22 proposed budget. And then we're going to share on April 29th the joint meeting with Nash County Board of Commissioners. And we also have the date of May 10th where the joint meeting with Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners will be meeting. So that was the revision. Just wanted to make sure I shared that calendar because we're going to have a special call meeting to approve that budget on the 27th. Yeah, that would be for approval. So we're going to have to vote on that. Mr. Sharpe, you want to do that?
Phil, you muted.
Am I still muted?
No, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, I need a motion to amend make the recommendation Dr. Ellis just referred us to.
So moved.
Second.
It's been probably moved and second, open for this question discussion. Hearing none, motion's approved. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Motion's approved. Dr. Ellis?
So Ms. Wallace is going to share the budget amendments for this month.
Good afternoon, Chairman Lamb and virtual board members. In the absence of Ms. Jarrett and at the request of Dr. Ellis, I will attempt to present to you the budget amendments. There are 3 budget amendments, major amendments that had to take place, and they are in the state funding, the local funding, and capital outlay. I will begin with Amendment 5, which is the state public school funding budget amendment. And the purpose codes of 5,000, which is the category of instructional services. You can see that the previous budget amount is listed and the amended, which is our current budget amount, is listed, which brings us to a change or difference of $234,556.54. In the purpose code 6,000, there was system-wide, which is the category of system-wide support services. You can see the previous budget amount and the current budget amount, which brings us to a change of about $168,505.26. The purpose code 7,000, which is ancillary services. The previous amount is listed for you and the current budget is listed for you, which brings us a difference of $1,009.80. The total amended amount in the state funding is $402,052 even. Below, I'm not sure how you want me to present this, but it does give us an explanation of where the moves were made based on the allotment revisions that were sent to us from the state. And primarily, we had to use those funds and move them, or we were going to lose them. And the expiration date for many of those funds were December 31st. And it looks like Ms. Jarrett moved those funds to areas where we had flexibility and we're able to use those funds for multiple items or resources or expenditures. Are there any questions about the state funding amendment? Okay, so the next amended budget is the local budget. It's amendment number 3. The purpose code 5,000, which is the category of instructional services. It outlines the beginning budget and the current budget, which brings us a change of $26,706.30. The purpose code for 6,000, which is our system-wide support services. The previous balance or budget amount is listed. The current amount is listed, which brings us a difference of $26,706.30. There were no changes to the other categories that are listed. And the primary reason for this budget amendment is to offset the growing supplement costs. Any questions about this amendment? Amendment number 3, which is a total capital outlay amendment. There were no changes to the categories instructional services, system-wide support services, and auxiliary services. The change came in Purpose Code 9000, category capital outlay funding. You see, we had nothing previously there, and we had to amend the budget to offset the cost of, I think, transportation, finance, and buses. And the change is $774,197. Are there any questions about any of the budget amendments? This is for approval. Mr. Sharpe, these amendments are for approval.
All right, I need a motion to approve these amendments.
So moved.
So move. The second,
Second.
been probably moved by Chairman Lamb and second by, I think, Mr. Dunstan. Any questions or discussions? Hearing none, I need a vote. All those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion so carried. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to present for an action item, the procurement plan for the school nutrition. We do this annually, and this request and signature is for name change from Nash Rocky Mountain Schools to Nash County Public Schools. Do you have any questions? And
No
Mr. Sharpe,
questions? We need a
that is-
motion on that, Miss?
Right.
Is that an action item? I don't have mine.
Yes, sir, that is an action item. Yes, sir.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the name recommendation by. Can I get a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the school nutrition procurement plan.
Second,
Second.
it's been moved by Chairman Land, second by Donald Tavis. All those in favor, any questions or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor will sign of aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Thank you for putting that back up for me. Next on the agenda is Mr. Davis. Are you available?
Yes, good afternoon. Here to present an action, the Red Oak Elementary School financing and construction lease. As part of the Nash County's financing of the construction of the new Red Oak Elementary School, the board needs to transfer ownership of the elementary school site to the county to pledge as security for the loan. At the same time, the county will lease the site back to the board for the construction and use of the new school during the term of the loan. In order to facilitate the board's construction of the school on the leased property, the board and county will enter into a construction and acquisition agreement authorizing the board to take all actions normally taken by local boards of education to construct the new school. A resolution approving and authorizing the execution of the deed, lease, and construction and acquisition agreement along with the reference documents is provided for the board's information. The superintendent recommends approval of the resolution. Any
So
questions?
moved.
So we've had the recommendation by Mr. Shannon Davis. I need a motion to approve the recommendation.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
second. Was there a second?
Yes, Mr. Dunton, second.
Okay. Any question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, sign of aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion approved. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Next motion is coming from Christine Catalano, the North Carolina School Board Trustee reappointment.
Good evening. We have a reappointment to the Nash Community College Board of Trustees for Miss Mary Wells. And the superintendent's recommending the board approve the appointment of Miss Wells to the Nash Community College Board of Trustees.
Mr. Chair, I move that Mary Wells be our nominee.
I'm not ready to call that motion yet, Miss.
Okay?
So I had a discussion with the superintendent. They just dropped this on us yesterday. I'm gonna make a motion that we table this one until our May meeting to have some discussions regarding this. So I'm gonna ask that we table this recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a vote. I received a letter on this for March 30th. And it was supposed to be put on the May calendar, but it was moved up to the calendar this month. So they will not hold up the appointment. I have a letter from Sonny Foster, the chair of Nash Community College. And he recommends, please accept this letter supporting the reappointment of Ms. Mary Wells to the Nash Community College Board of Trustees. Ms. Wells present term expires on June 30th, 2021, and she has indicated a desire to continue serving. Ms. Wells has served on the board since 2013 and presently serves on the Finance and Personnel Committees. With her background and experience, she is an invaluable asset to the Board of Trustees. Ms. Wells' continued service will strengthen the positive work relationship with the college already enjoys with the Nash County Public School System. As chairman, I am grateful for Ms. Wells' willingness to volunteer on this board. Please feel free to contact me should you need additional information. Thank you for your support and consideration. I would like to make a motion to accept Ms. Wells as the appointment for Nash Community College.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Lamb and it's been seconded by Mrs. Chavis. Question, discussion, I have these. I'm gonna not vote on this, and the reason being is that basically this has to go before the full board for approval. And basically, it's not recommending her to do that, but I would like to actually have a conversation and talk with the president of the college. I didn't talk to him directly, but Dr. Ellis did, and share some concerns I have with Dr. Ellis. And one of the things that I like to make a recommendation is that we actually appoint someone from our board, the Board of Education, to serve on that Nash Community College Board. I know we haven't had that in the past, but I think looking foresight, having a visionary for our school and our district, we need to have someone who's got some insight to what the school system is all about. And Mary Wells has done an outstanding job in it, working with the community college, but I'd like to have a dialogue with the chair of the Board of Trustees as well as the president of the board and make a suggestion or recommendation to the full board at our May meeting. This was dropped on us at the last minute. I don't like making decisions at the last minute, and we just got this loaded yesterday. So that's one of the reasons why I'm gonna say I'm gonna oppose actually making this recommendation to the full board. But there's a motion on the floor. Any other discussion or questions regarding this?
Bill, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I know you and I had talked about this today, and it reached out to a couple other folks, and I certainly understand what you're saying, and appreciate kind of our desire to maybe have some representation on the board of trustees going forward. But I do feel like that should come from the college. That should come from conversations that, our chairman, our superintendent is maybe having with Dr. Honeycutt and Sonny Foster, their chair, in the future. But I do want it to maybe, because I guess that's how it's traditionally been, has been at their recommendation. And if they want to, pull us in and are comfortable with our representation going forward, I would love that. But maybe this isn't the timing of it, and something that we could certainly look at in the future as we're able to have those conversations. It's not apples to apples, but I know we wouldn't be comfortable having somebody appointed to us that we couldn't have a say so in, and I'm sure they're the same way. So let's get those talks in place if that is something we want to take a look at. But I would certainly support Mrs. Wells at this time, given where we are.
Okay.
Mr. Sharpe, may I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I would like to have a clearer understanding exactly what is her role. I know she will be a board member, but is this someone that I know traditionally since the 13th, I believe she's been on the board representing the school system in terms of we making the nomination for her to accept her appointment rather. I like to have a clearer understanding. I would think that person needs to be a person who has a good understanding and really support what we try to do with Nash County schools. Not saying that Mrs. Wells have not done that, but I like to have someone that's going to be a voice for us, who will be a fair voice and who understands the appointment and understand what is expected of them in that role. And I would appreciate a dialogue with our superintendent and our board chair, along with Dr. Honeycutt and whoever else, for us to have a clear understanding of what that person should be doing and how they should be a voice for us. I think it's important that if somebody's being appointed on our behalf, it should be a person that represents us and that speaks on our behalf and who brings a fair voice concerning public education and Nash County Public Schools. It needs to be a person that's really pro-board, to be honest, pro-school district, really pro understanding and being that fair voice for our kids.
Mr. Mitchell from Tharrington Smith, I think, has got something to say.
Adam?
Yeah, thank you, and good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Mitchell. I'm a lawyer at Tharrington Smith, filling in for Rod. And I hate to jump into the conversation, but the statutes that govern appointments to community colleges actually specifically say that school boards cannot appoint school board members or school system employees to the board. So I'm certainly not, it's not a judgment call, or I'm not trying to take away from the conversation that's going on, and I understand about representation, but we actually can't appoint a member of our board to be on the community college board.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Well, Adam, you earned your dollars today, so we weren't aware, I wasn't aware of that, so thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Mr.
I think it's good information for us to hear. Thank you, Adam. But I do want to go back to what I said earlier. I still think it's something that we as the board should understand. If we choose to still make an appointment other than who we've appointed or who we've accepted over the years, I think it's fair to understand all that we're up against and understand all the ins and outs. That's really what I'm saying.
Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Davis.
I would like to point out the fact that Mary Wells has been a very valuable friend to this board as relationships to our county commissioner positions. She has never been afraid to speak about the school system, even in opposition of other commissioners not fully understanding what we were trying to do. She has voted against the norm to actually stand up for the board. And we have only had one other situation where we nominated someone, and I'm not even sure they were recommended by the president or the standing chair, but they got on that board and were not friends of ours. So I do find that Mary would be one that has traditionally shown support, even when there's strong opposition. She has never wavered in terms of supporting this school system. And that was just the observation I would like to add.
Thank
I
you.
totally disagree with that observation.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have voiced what my thoughts were, and I still hold, not, Mr. Mitchell, I appreciate you bringing it to my attention about a board member not serving. But I sort of concur with Mr. Silver. I think and I would love to sit down and chat with the chair as well as the president, just to find out what the roles are and how they go about picking those. I would like to, as Mr. Silver said, I would like to see someone who's there who's going to fight for our school systems and not necessarily stand down or stand down when things are going to get rough. So with that said, we have a motion on the floor to make the recommendation to the full board to appoint Mary Wells. It's been moved by Mr. Lamb, I think it was. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And second by Ms. Chavis?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or discussions? All those in favor will show a sign by saying aye.
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 So we got 3 ayes. All those opposed say nay. I'm going to say nay. So
Nay.
we got three ayes and 1 nay. So the
Nay.
ayes have.
It's two nays.
Did I miss something?
I said nay.
Mr. Silver, I don't know if you're on a part of the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. But the recommendation will come before the full board in May.
Got you.
So,
No, it will come before the full board at the regular meeting tonight, Mr. Sharpe.
Okay, tonight, I'm sorry, thank you. It'll come before the full board tonight. Thank you for that correction. All right, so with that said, the ayes have, we'll bring it to the full board for a vote on the full board tonight. Next thing on the agenda. ABC Science Collaborative.
Good evening. This is just for information only. Session Law 2021-4, which was Senate Bill 220, the Reopen Our Schools Act, required that if we reopened in Plan A in our middle schools and our high schools, that we sign a memorandum of understanding with the ABC Collaborative to share some data. And so this is just letting you know what data that they are requesting that we share with them. It is data that we're already collecting, not that we're publishing out. There are some additional pieces that we'll be sending to them, including the number of school-related COVID-19 infections. So right now on our dashboard, we have got the total number of community-related infections, which includes those school-related infections, but we'll be pulling those out separately and sending that data to the ABC Collaborative for each school each week. And then at the end of the school year, we will need to send the information that's in item C there, which it breaks out those numbers that are acquired through school-sponsored sports, the number of positive cases acquired through other extracurricular activities that are not sports-related, and then we will report the number quarantined as a result of within-school exposure. So those are new data points that we will be adding to what's collected and shared with the board on a weekly basis, and will be shared with the ABC Collaborative as well. Are there any questions?
Is there an action item?
That is for information only.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Carolina, for that information.
Bill, or Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Like,
I don't know if we approved the minute. Is that part of when we started? Was that a item that we needed to vote on?
yeah, thank you, Lang. Appreciate that. That's what happens when we meet satellite and not face to face. Hopefully, pretty soon that'll be canceled, so we'll all reconvene together again. All right. So I need a motion also to accept the minutes from the previous minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and probably second. Question or discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor to accept the previous minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. That closes us out for what our discussion for the administrative side of it. So I'd like to call this section of the meeting to a close. I need a motion to close this section of the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and probably second, moved by Mr. Lamb, second by Donna Tavis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's closed. Thank you. I turn it back over to the chair.
Thanks, Bill.
So with that said, I can go back to work now, right? Franklin
Yes.
or Dr. Ellis, it's on you guys.
All right, so the next one would be our, don't we have student service? Oh, Ms. Washington.
All right, good evening, board members. The time is 5:32 p.m. I'd like to call the Student Support Services and Operations Committee to order. First, I'll start by doing a roll call. Board Member Chavis.
Yes.
Board Member Jenkins.
Yes.
Board Member Edwards.
Present.
And Board Member E. Bullock.
Present.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Chavis and a second by Jenkins. Thank you, minutes approved. We have one item for information only, Ms. Grant.
Good evening. We coming for you today just to give you some COVID-19 updates, to let you know of a few changes that we've made based on the updates to the Strong Schools Toolkit that DHHS have put in place. The two changes were made March 23rd and March 24th, and you have copies of the update linked in the PowerPoint. One of the biggest changes that was made was for symptom screening. So we had it where anybody entering the building, all children, all adults were screened, asked questions, and their temperature was checked. That was taken out of being a recommendation based on our Strong Schools Toolkit. The CDC does no longer recommend that screening take place at the school. They recommend it take place, their home-based screening takes place. So we have blasted out information to our community that by sending your children to school or by coming to school, you're basically attesting to the fact that you or your child can answer no to all of the COVID screening questions. We did maintain the temperature screenings, although we did not have to. When I met with the nurses COVID task force, they felt that at least keeping that piece in was a solid number that was in place that could help us potentially catch some potential COVID cases coming into our buildings. Visitors do have to have a full screening, the temperature check and the screening questions that are asked. So that is one of our big changes that we have made. For physical distancing, when the toolkit was updated, the CDC also made the recommendation to no longer require the 6 feet between children. They actually recommended that to the greatest extent possible. We are asking schools to at least have 3 feet of social distancing when possible. That our recommendation is we would like to see that happen. We would like to see a distance of 6 feet in the hallway where there usually is a lot more children crowded in the hallways. And if possible, increase the distance between the students to 6 feet when eating, because when they're eating, they're taking their mask off and there's more of a potential for spread without the mask. And then of course, eating outdoors is encouraged when weather permits. And I know that there's been several schools, as nice as the weather have already been taking advantage of that. We are placing a very strong emphasis on the requirements for cleaning and hygiening, hand washing and sanitize are just critical mitigating measures. And of course, the mask enforcement is always, the mask wearing is always going to stay in place.
As it relates to the athletic guidelines, we will continue with our team temperature screenings. That is done with the coach themselves. So coaches and athletes will be screened. The visiting team will also be screened by their coach. That is an exchange that's done between our two coaches. That also is because several counties in our state of North Carolina is not going to allow participation if there is not some sort of screening process, as well as ourselves. It's just safety for the athletes and the coaches. That is not required of the spectators. We do not do temperature screenings or questions prior to as they arrive outdoors, because we are maintaining our outdoor plans but when they enter, it's also masks are required. We do use our PA system and remind them regularly in reference to masks. And then athletes, middle and high, do follow the guidelines that are sports specific in the in-season expectations by the High School Athletic Association. They're required to wear masks most all times during competition.
And I would like to say one thing before moving on to the vaccine clinic. We are going to readdress the temperature screenings with the nurses COVID task force group to determine if we wish, if we want that to remain in for the remainder of the school year or not. So as we come to tomorrow, to Friday, that's our last and final second dose clinic that we're having for the vaccine. We are very excited to have 60% of our staff as of after tomorrow's clinic, 60% of our staff will have their second dose for the vaccine. We've already seen a decrease in some of our exclusions from our staff with that they got theirs earlier and are already 2 weeks out of having their shot. So we are not required to exclude them once they have had a COVID exposure because of the protection of the vaccine. So once we finish that tomorrow, we are hopeful that we'll be able to keep more staff in the schools once they are exposed to COVID, and that we are continuing to work with staff who are now wanting to get the vaccine and also finding a clinic to get the first dose as well. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, if there are no questions, thank you, Ms. Miller and Ms. Grant for the COVID-19 updates. And there is no further business on the agenda for this committee. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Second.
So it has been moved by board member Chavis and seconded by, committee member, board member Chavis, and seconded by board member Jenkins. Meeting adjourned.
Doesn't matter to me. We have board members that are on that committee are present.
Washington was on there, Mr. Silver, Mr. Visit's here, Miss S. Bullock was there. Everybody.
And we let them know.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the Academic Services and Accountability Committee to order. I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bissett. I need a
Second.
second. Second by Ms. Washington. All in favor, say aye. All opposed likewise. I see Ms. Washington is here, Mr. Silver, Mr. Bissett, Ms. S. Bullock. Testing updates, Ms. Robin Griffin.
Good evening. I hope you all are well. I'm just going to give you a quick update on some information that we have for testing for the 2021 school year. Unlike last year, we did not get a waiver for testing, so we are expected to test all of our students this year. States, yes, I'm doing it. Yeah, states will not have to identify the comprehensive support or improvement schools, TSI, CSI schools. That'll be a federal, that's a federal waiver that was allowed. If you remember those schools that we had identified a number of years ago will just stay in that category until the accountability system can sort of get back up and running. To ensure transparency, the 95% testing requirement stays in place. DPI always says the expectation is 100%, but they give us that little leeway of 95% in order to deal with unforeseen circumstances. So the 95% is still in place for participation. However, instead of a waiver, the federal government has added a reporting component there this year, and the not tested will have to be reported by school, by subgroup, and by district by subgroup for reading, math, and science. So instead of waiving, they've actually added a reporting component this year. The cohort graduation will still be reported by subgroup, and the number of percent of English learners exiting the program will be reported. Additional reporting this year will be chronic absenteeism and student access to technology. So you can kind of see how all of those pieces have kind of weaved through here over the last couple of years. Just as a reminder that the 2021 school year is a standard setting year for ELA for reading. So grades 4 through 8 reading scores will be delayed probably until late July, early August. It's usually the fall before we get those. If you remember back to 18-19, that was the math standard setting year, and those scores did not come to us until later. This happens about every 5 years or so with every subject. Grade 3, however, since it is falls under the Read to Achieve laws, those scores will be given to us this year, but they will be using the old standard setting guidance. And then the new standard setting guidelines will go into effect next year for them. And then growth will still be reported this year. In fact, I met this afternoon with principals around roster verification. So that process will still be in place for this year. So just to reiterate, there are no waivers this year. And you'll remember that the majority of North Carolina's accountability system lives in our legislature, and it's thus far there have been no bills that have changed any of that reporting components or the requirements for testing either. So on the screen now that you see is that, could you go back? Thank you. Is the test schedule for the upcoming season. So you can see that, remember that by law, the testing must occur within the last 10 days of the year for year-long courses and the last 5 days of the semester for semester-long courses. So this is what our test schedule will look like. I've worked very closely with the school test coordinators, the principals, people here in this building to make sure that we have offered as much flexibility as we could around what is within the legislation that we are bound to. So you can see up at the top is our 3 through 8 test schedule. And then down at the bottom is our high school test schedule. We are allowing testing on Fridays. And so we will be working with those schools. I've talked with transportation, I've talked with facilities, I've talked with child nutrition to make sure that all of those components are in place as we move through this. Our virtual students do have to come in and test. So again, we're offering schools, they have to stay within that 5 or 10 day window, but we're offering them flexibility around that to be so that they can schedule those students as to when to get them in. And what we're really hoping for is to be able for them to be able to schedule in a way that if parents are concerned about bringing students into the building with other students, that they have a way of addressing that and making them feel as comfortable as possible. So, and just as a reminder, so a makeup test can happen any day after the initial test window. So for example, the reading day for 3 through 8 is May 19th. 18th, the 19th is the math day. But students can also be making up reading that day if they need to. So depending on, as we move through, the opportunity for makeups kind of grows with each of those days. And in both the elementary, middle, and high, in all 3 of those schedules, there are built-in makeup days, days on which teachers are in the building. It's a school day, but there's not an assigned test. So that also leaves flexibility for makeup testing or for bringing the remote students in. All right, next one, please. This one's just a reminder about proctors. In the 18-19 school year, DPI gave us some flexibility around proctors and hall monitors. And one of the things that I've always talked to the TCs, the school test coordinators about, and the principals is that a proctor is not an I gotcha. A proctor is another adult voice to be able to reiterate what the teacher is saying should someone bring an accusation of misconduct within a test environment up. So basically what DPI has said is it's a district decision as to whether or not how you use proctors and monitors. So that state board policy TEST 10 kind of addresses that. And then it says that each district should have its own policy. So what we've done is kind of taken DPI's guidance, but also given that extra level of support to first year and lateral entry teachers who may be new at this. So that we have asked that the first year and lateral entry teachers have a proctor, a designated proctor in the room with them. Teachers with clear licenses, as well as first year lateral entry teachers and beginning year teachers must either have a designated proctor, a roving proctor, or a hall monitor. And that's at the discretion of the principal or the principal's designee. So we always ask that there be some schools just like having proctors in the room. So if they can make it happen, they do. A roving proctor may be assigned like 4 classrooms in close proximity to each other. So they would be walking around kind of in and out, standing outside the door, just being able to be a help to that teacher should they need it, should the teacher need to get the attention of the test coordinator or the principal or need some assistance or something like that. So we just always ask that they have somebody there. And then if there's not a roving proctor or an assigned proctor, there has to be a hall monitor nearby. Because remember, once that testing starts, once those test materials are activated, the test administrator cannot leave that room unless another trained test administrator goes in. So if they have a bathroom emergency or some other kind of reason why they would need to leave, then there needs to be somebody else to step in. So that hall monitor is really important. And because we still have some limitations now on like how many students could be in the restroom at any given time. If teachers are letting students out of a classroom to go to the restroom, It could coincidentally be that 4 could come out at the same time, and you may not want 4 in the restroom at one time. So the hall monitor could kind of monitor and assist with that. The next statement is just about what the requirements are for being a hall monitor. You have to be 18 years of age, either an employee. If you're not an employee, you have to be vetted, and you cannot be a student in the school system. Way back in the day, those of you who've been around for a while, like me, may remember when you could use high school students to go in and proctor. No longer can you do that. So the has to be somebody who is not a student in the system. And then we are working through the process of allowing volunteers to come back into the building for the testing cycle. So are there any questions for me? Otherwise, this is for information only. Thank you.
Thank you. The Summer Scholars Academy 2021 Summer Learning Update. Ms. Nancy Smith.
Good evening, Chairman Lamb, Superintendent Ellis, and other board members. I want to talk to you a little bit about our Summer Learning Academy and why we are having this academy. Next slide, please. So why House Bill 82? House Bill 82 prescribes that all school districts must offer a program during the summer that is in person on specific subjects. And it has to be an extension of the school year. And I'll go into more details a little later. I wanted to point out to you that this is a huge task. Next slide. This is a huge task. So we actually pulled the entire district together to ensure that we had a really good program for our students. So the next slide will show you that the planning committee ranged from our content specialists to our child nutrition executive director, from our transportation director, from EC, maintenance, and we felt it was important to pull in our parent coordinator as well as representation from our principals. Next slide. So Mr. Malone, I want to say last Friday, sent us a document that unpacked the House bill for us. So in the essence of time, I will not go through every single thing, but what I've tried to do is to put in bold print things that we absolutely have to be cognizant of as we submit our plan. So one is that the in-person learning that we provide for our students must be a minimum of 150 hours or over the course of 30 days. Instructional time shall not include lunch service, transition periods, and the physical activity periods. It must be outside of this calendar year, not when students leave, but when we close out this calendar year, which is June 4th. We must provide meals and transportation will be as it is now on Plan A. Next slide. The K-3 class size legislation is not applicable during this program. For K-3, the program must be in person. We have to provide instruction on reading and math for all students in the program. In third grade, it has to be reading, math, and we also offer science. If you move down to 4th through 8th, it's the exact same as what is happening in K-3, with the exception of we have to provide reading, math, as well as science. One enrichment activity, as well as offer some physical activity. High schools provides us just a little more flexibility, but it must also be in person. It is more of a credit recovery for EOC subjects. We can provide access to modules and teacher support for that credit recovery, but we want to ensure that students are still on track for graduation. Again, in-person instruction, and we must offer electives. With all of our grade spans, we will build in time for small group instruction to work with these at-risk students. Next slide. A plan must be submitted to the Department of Public Instruction 30 days prior to the last day of school, which again, that's June 4th. It has to be in-person social and emotional support, as well as ensuring that in kindergarten, any student who attends the program will not be retained, but we will put supplemental supports in place for those students when they are promoted to first grade. The key is they must be invited and they must attend the program. For all other students who are at risk, we will make retention decisions at the end of the program, and we will send invitations to all of our at-risk students. Note that for our third grade students, the Read to Achieve law has not been waived in any way. If you could go to the very last slide. No, I'm sorry, right there. So I do want to share with you some things that we are excited about, because we had begun planning to give our teachers sign-in bonuses anyway in our plan. And now we know we will have additional funding from this bill to ensure that we can provide those sign-in bonuses. But LEAs are encouraged to incentivize highly effective teachers, through various ways to make sure they're able to work in our program. So if you click on that link, I think it would do a better job explaining the sign-in bonuses link. All right. So this flyer has not gone out to teachers yet, because I do want to share that when a lot of our Rockstar teachers applied to work in our program this summer, they did not know that we were given a bonus. We did not want to share that because we didn't want to overextend ourselves, because as we planned initially, we knew we had to do it, but we didn't know what our budget would be. So kudos to all of our teachers, but specifically those National Board certified teachers, as well as those teachers who have met that performance growth over the years. So if a teacher works the 5-week program, which is June 14th to the 23rd, they will earn their hourly rate of pay, and they will receive an additional $1,000 at the end of the program. The asterisk indicates that if they're National Board certified, or if they've met the criteria for meeting the state's performance bonus, they would receive an additional $1,200. So in working with Mrs. Wallace, because this is federal money, we felt that rather than giving all teachers the same bonus, we wanted to provide the bonus based on the number of weeks that they worked. So if a teacher with National Board certification works for 3 weeks of the program, the bonus will be $720, and you will see the way that it's tiered. So again, we're excited about that, because we do know that will help us in our recruitment efforts. I want to point out to you that prior to teachers knowing about this bonus, we had 15 elementary teachers who applied, who were either National Board certified or had already earned that performance bonus. 17 middle school teachers and 1 high school teacher. The next, if we would go back to the presentation. So we know we had to set some criteria, and we know that this year we've had several students who may not have previously been at risk, but they may have become at risk this year. So in setting criteria, we looked at iStation data, levels 1s and 2s for our K-3 students. For our EC extended content, we looked at levels 2s and 3s. We will look at the 3rd grade read to achieve pathways in 3rd through 5th grade, as well as 3rd grade. We will assess EOGs and CASE. If you move to secondary schools, we will just overall look at the credits and the number of students who are actually passing. Unique learning would be the same. And in middle schools, we will look at EOGs as well as CASE data. Note that participation, attendance, teacher recommendations will be considered by all grade spans. This slide shows our schedule. I shared with you that we were required to have no less than 150 hours. The team felt strongly that we wanted to commit to a 5-week program to ensure that teachers had at least 2 weeks before they came back on August the 9th. So we are a little over 150 hours, but we know we have to give some pre and post assessments. So we wanted to build time in for that as well. I do want to share with you that we wanted to intentionally go back to our traditional schedule, because for some of our students, they have not been in school for a full instructional day at all if they're in kindergarten. And for others, it has not been since May. So we wanted to work on building stamina and showing kids that this is what a day will look like when they transition back. Of course, in the fall, that is all contingent on the where we are with the virus. But this summer, we had to schedule a minimum of 150 hours. Next slide. This is a breakdown of our at-risk students. If you click on that link, at-risk students, I just wanted to highlight that the general statute tells us that we should be monitoring our at-risk students anyway. So we've been doing that all along. People may ask, how can we determine what students are already at risk? This is just best practice, but the general statute tells us that the end of grade test, as well as our EOC, really should not determine whether a child is at risk. That's just one data point. We just want to make sure that, you know, we're documenting things and we're serving those kids throughout the year. So we will serve approximately 4,600 students this summer, and you can look at the grade spans. The next slide would indicate the sites. So you'll see that our sites this year have truly expanded. We have about 19 sites in the entire district. The next slide is just a timeline of where we are right now. So you'll see in April, so tomorrow we will notify our summer, the first batch of summer employees, because we wanted to take care of our core teachers first. Then we will, at the end of this month, we will submit our plan on April 26th to DPI for approval. And we have tracked everything out right up until October. Are there any questions?
One, the teachers that you select to teach, they're going to be teachers that have been in person all along, right?
It will be a little
I
bit
would
of,
hate for somebody to select, you got teachers that want to teach
Right.
and select somebody that has been Zoomed the whole time instead of person that's been in the classroom the whole time. I wouldn't want the person to get taken out.
Right. So are you saying, are we selecting only teachers who've taught virtually?
No.
No.
I would want the people, the teachers that have been in person all along to have first priority over the ones that have been virtual the entire time.
That would be a school board attorney and HR question. Our criteria is that we have looked at teacher grade, the grade students have earned with them, whether they were in person or whether they were virtual teachers. We knew we could not discriminate based on the learning environment that teachers taught in. And we also ensured that we had principal recommendations. So there were some teachers who applied, and quite frankly, they will not be hired for the summer program.
And I would just hate to see somebody who's been virtual the whole year take somebody's place that has been in person the whole year. That's just my preference.
I understand. Are there any other questions? If not, we will move to the next item, which is K-3 class size maximum requirements. Should be in sentence. I mean, not really. So I stood before you in October to request waivers for our virtual classrooms. In transitioning to Plan A, 6 of our classrooms now exceed the maximum class size. So I do want to remind you that once classrooms are in compliance, the general statute says that those classes have to stay in compliance for the entire school year. And it does not matter whether it's virtual or in person. So in kindergarten, the maximum class size is 21. In first grade, it's 21 as well. Second, 21, and third, 21. So in consultation with these principals who have requested these waivers, Dr. Ellis and I felt strongly that students should not have to transition to new teachers because more students are being included in the classrooms. So I shared with those principals that we would request a waiver. The general statute allows us to request waivers. So at Bailey, there is 1 classroom that is out of compliance. There are 23 first graders in the classroom, so she's 2 over. At Fairview, there are 3 classes at 22 and 1 at 23. At Red Oak, the virtual class is out of compliance as it is at 23. There is not a financial implication to apply for additional classroom waivers. So the superintendent requests the board's approval to submit individualized class size waivers for the classrooms that I have shared. We feel that this falls under emergencies or act of God that impacted the availability of space within our classrooms.
I would entertain a motion to approve the K-3 class size waiver.
Approve it or bring it to the board for approval?
Bring it to the board for
So moved.
this committee to approve.
Okay.
Motion by Mr. Visit. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silver. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Nancy Smith. Now, class of 2021 commencement, Mr. Thompson.
So good evening. So tonight I would like to present the graduation plan for the class of 2021.
First, I would like to present to you the advisor groups, the various groups that we talked with and collaborated with in order to develop this plan. As you can see in the first column, that the superintendent's advisory group, Dr. Ellis met with student advisors, parent advisors, school administrator advisory boards, and the teacher advisory board. We also created a graduation interest survey, which we put out to everyone. This included students, parents, our staff in the district, and community stakeholders. Lastly, you'll see in the column where principal input, we've had extensive conversations and planning meetings with the high school principals, had their roundtables and collaborations during graduation meetings, specifically discussing graduation meetings. So I want to talk a little bit about the survey results so you could see. So the first portion of this deals with the people who had taken the survey and their involvement with the schools. And you can see that there were 331 that were actually going to be graduates this year in 2021. 106 that are parents of graduates. And then you had 110 of regular students, and then 43 of regular parents. Our Nash County employees at 261, and then community members at 13. Next, you will see that we associated these people also with the schools. And you see 123 were with Nash Central High School, 209 at Northern Nash, 131 at Rocky Mount High School, 183 at Southern Nash, 50 at Early College, 11 at TRA. You even have 6 at City. They will graduate some next year. And then we had 151 who actually did not work or attend high schools here in the district. So we asked, what would be your concerns on the survey? And these were the questions. And so you can see, I want to ensure that adequate social distancing takes place. 330 folks said that. I would like symptom screening at the graduation. Also, we had 320. I feel all staff members, students, and guests must wear masks. We had that at 391. I am concerned about how family members will get access to watch the event. That was 308. And then the one that's had the most, of course, at 625 is that they want to ensure that the event is memorable for their graduates and their families. And then it moves on to, I'm concerned about resources, went to 169, and I do not have any concerns at 134. So, thank you. So we also asked a question about structure of graduation. How would you like to see that happen? So one was pre-recorded individualized ceremony, one student, one guest. That came out to 73 people at 8.4%. Then another one was pre-recorded small groups, similar, multiple students and their guests rotating in the venue. That came out to 4.5% or 39 people. Then we had outdoor ceremony with all graduates in one location, no guest, live stream. That was 22 people at 2.5%. Outdoor ceremony with all graduates in one location, 1 or 2 guests per student, live streamed, came out to 516 people at 59.8%. Then we also asked about the condensed outdoor ceremony with groups of graduates rotating the venue, limiting the number of guests and still live streaming. We had 119 at 13.8%. And then lastly, we had condensed indoor ceremony with groups of graduates rotating the venue space, limited number of guests, live stream, and that was around 6.6%. So looking at all of and hearing all of the feedback and the collaboration that was done, this is the plan that has been developed. And so traditional high schools, an outdoor graduation at 50% capacity because of the governor's order, of course. I do want to pay close attention to the times. The times there are there from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. because, as you know, in June, We have weather and lightning and thunder and inclement weather. So we wanted to go ahead and try to stay ahead of that as much as we could. So June the 4th, 2021, Rocky Mount High School at 9 a.m., Nash Central High School at 11 a.m. at their football stadium. Northern Nash, 9 a.m. on June 5th. Southern Nash at 11 a.m. on June 5th. Once again, at the football stadium, 4 tickets per graduate. Then we look at early college and TRA. Early college actually had a poll also about if they would like to be in their facility, which is basically Nash Community College Brown Auditorium, and 90% said yes. So that may include a 2-piece graduation, because we want to also allow them 4 family members and friends to be able to come as well. TRA, it will be on May 28th at 6 p.m. We have venues that we are looking at right now that we're almost there to make a decision, because in their auditorium it's too small to meet so that they can have 4 guests as well. So we will definitely have that ironed out no later, hopefully, than tomorrow. We did want to mention that in this plan, a virtual student option is also in it. So if students are still concerned about coming on campus in a live graduation, then we will pre-record similar to last year. Graduates will be allowed 4 guests this year, just like the live graduation. It will be videoed and attached to the end of the live feed of the outdoor graduation. Students will be listed in the program and announced at the live graduation. An announcement will be made stating also that the virtual graduation will air at the end of the live stream so that they are recognized as well. And then the inclement weather plan, because we will be outside for traditional high schools, is that when distributing the regular graduation tickets, 2 of those tickets will be different colors. And if we have inclement weather, then we will move to the gymnasiums, and the parents, of course, will be communicated to. Whomever they choose to have those 2 tickets will be allowed into the graduation inside the gym, because the 50% there is much smaller than outdoors in the stadium. And then lastly, we wanted to share with you, because you saw in the survey that safety was a big concern. And so they have released some measures for actually graduations. And most of these are in the graduation suggestions. So you can see things like 6 feet distance in between the family groups. There will be signage of the 3 W's, wear, wait, and wash. We will be providing hand sanitizer stations, multiple entry points so that there's not large gatherings, identified marks on seating, printing safety messages on back of graduation tickets. And we will also have a nurse available, try to have our nurses available in case of an emergency. And of course, there are more safety measures, but this is one I want to show you as a sample. And so we're at the point of questions, if there's any questions.
How do you determine that 50% capacity outdoor?
Because they know the capacity of their stadium, and so we've taken that and done the 50% off of that stadium
So
capacity.
we're not including any of this. We won't allow seating on the field behind the students?
Well, that would be the spectator seating in the stands, and there will be, we may have to even go down below, because the stands may not hold all of those, so we may have to do that as well. So that's the plan, if it has to. And that comes out to 4 tickets that would be pretty reliable of what we could do.
And who states that 50% capacity? Is that DPI?
That's the governor said, yeah, that's the governor order.
Okay, is this not an outdoor event like movie nights? Movie nights are at 100% capacity then.
We're seeing it at 50%, but now if it's moved up to 100%, that's a
They're
different
starting to
story.
have outdoor events. They're having movie nights. I mean, they're planning Boogaloo.
Mhm.
Where are we at with that?
We will have to look back and make sure we're 100%, but right now we are moving off to 50%, which the governor has said.
That was probably the last one that Rod gave
Yeah.
us was
Is the 50%.
when Governor
Does it specifically say high school graduation?
Yeah, we had a
50%.
specific one for high school graduation.
watching that.
I have a question.
It's a movie night.
Yes.
Oh,
Sit on the lawn and watch a movie.
Oh, okay.
100% capacity, but we can't have graduation.
Mr. Silver?
That's,
Yes, sir.
The point I want to make, Mr. Thompson, I'm in agreement with Mr. Bissett. Why not allow families to bring lawn chairs and sit out if possible, if need be? They can sit together as a family in lawn chairs. I think would be awesome, give people a chance to really enjoy the graduation. You're outside, it's very much the same thing as a movie night, you ask me.
So, Mr. Silver, that's what we were just explaining just a little while ago, is that Mr. Malone, who is, of course, the attorney, has sent the governor's recommendations of 50% or the order. And so that was the last piece that we actually received as guidance.
So is the recommendation the same as an order? Is that the same as an order by recommendation?
Yes, his was actually an order at that point. Yes.
And that order does specifically state 50% capacity of your stadium. It does not include that field seating. I mean, there's some things that you need to look into. I mean, the 50% capacity of seating in a stadium. You put 200-300 kids on a football field, you can still have more seating in the back, like you say. I mean, I just exhaust all of our resources before we say, you know, I'm a type person to say, you know, don't say no, say have, you know.
Can we further explore into that to make sure that we're in total agreement with, I mean, you know, in total compliant with that?
And you're sitting there shaking your head no. I want to hear your thoughts on that also.
Isn't the attorney listening to this?
The attorney is listening, but Mr.
Well,
Thompson.
let's get him to answer up. I mean, we're talking all around about the attorney. Let the attorney answer up. Rod, are you there?
Rod's not here tonight. We have a
Yes.
stand-in.
But prior to that, did you want me to
Okay,
respond?
where's the stand-in at?
I'm here.
Okay, can you speak to it so we'll know what's up?
It is the current guidance order from the governor is 50%. I think it's a fair question about what does 50% of an outdoor stadium mean? And I certainly think that that's something that we can look at and discuss with your staff. I can't give an answer right now. I don't know. I haven't thought about it, but I do think that that's a fair question that can be looked at.
Because Mr. Mitchell, a lot of your cities right now are figuring capacity for outdoor events are giving 7 net square feet per person. That's a lot of square footage on a football field.
Well, we'll be glad to take a look.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to share that Mrs. Wallace, Mr. Thompson, and I all have are vested in this graduation. We would be anyway, but we all have seniors. So as a parent of a graduate, I would want this to be a dignified event for her, as it has been for families in the past. I think in working with the principals that we feel confident that the closest family members will be a part of graduation. Because in the past, we've only given out 2 tickets anyway. So we as a parent, I feel comfortable with that. It will be a dignified event, and I will choose people who are closest to me. And I just want it to be memorable for all students and not take certain things.
No doubt. And I agree. If you start letting people bring lounge chairs, you know, this is going to be a party fest.
Right.
But I mean, I think we can make it dignified. We can invest and look at, you know, renting some chairs, putting some chairs.
We're gonna have to do that anyway.
Yeah. Looking at some of these things, I just want to make sure we exhausted all of our resources. And if we put the chairs out, we can control spacing, we can control pods. And like I say, if a football stadium, forgive me if I can't remember, but I've done a lot of those calculations for us. I mean, you're talking about what's the capacity, 50% capacity of, say, Northern Nash. What is that?
was it like 700? We were talking today about it, trying to get the number.
Yeah, because I want to say the seating is under two, it's slightly under 2,000 for that stadium. Yeah, it's slightly
Divided it by
under 2,000. So if we've got 300 kids graduating, I don't know, throw me a number out.
Yeah, 282, yeah. Each.
So if we have 300 kids and we can have 1,000, there's 200 people that's, yeah, you know, I mean, we may have to cut, and there may be some that don't send it to, or don't leave it, whatever. But I want us to be able to offer 4 tickets for every kid that wants to graduate.
But we
Yeah,
are,
we'll be
yeah,
able-
we are offering right now 4
I'd love to offer 8, you know, but, you know, I mean, I know we have to do what we have to
Right.
do. But like I say, before we start cutting anywhere, I mean, I think there's some square footage and, you know, let's make sure we've investigated that 50% capacity fully.
Pre-COVID, we were all used to graduating inside, so people already used to getting 4 tickets to start with.
Yeah,
Matt.
that's a good point. They always had 4, at the most 5, and they were sitting side by side, as tight as it could be.
You know, they were in there like cordwood, ain't no doubt.
That's right.
Been there, done that.
But you also want to make
But
sure
air
if we can do the 4 tickets, no other school should get 4, one get 5. We want to make sure you're consistent.
That's right.
And my concern is, talking with the high school principals today, was that, you know, things might change in May or June. We don't know. But we always have stuck with the guidance that the governor sends us because it was specific this time to graduation ceremonies. So if something else changes that Rod wants to share with us, by all means, we want to make sure we have a dignified ceremony with the right people. But I do want to make sure we go back to the survey because the kids were, the biggest thing they talked about was a safe environment. So we're going to make sure we can provide all that for them, make sure we can put as many as we can in that stadium, but be safe as well. So, yeah, we're going to
I agree. And by then, we're gonna have some of our kids probably gonna be vaccinated.
possibly so.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Silver, second by Mr. Visit. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Ready to go right into work session?
We can, as long as for me, there's a little magic button stuff.
Good up. Well, we got 2 minutes.
No, you don't have to worry about that.
It's on.
It is.
Yeah.
Where did candy come from? Coffee. Coffee, candy.
That's all right. Next meeting, we're gonna be no Zoom and meal.
We're gonna be eating, is that what you're saying?
All